The sky above Earth was calm, but far beyond the blue atmosphere, something new was being prepared. Humanity had built many ships before, but this time it was different. This ship was called Aurora, and it was the first Titan-class warship. It was not only the largest vessel ever made by human hands, it was also the most advanced. Nations that once competed against each other had worked together to build it. For the first time in history, humanity had created something that belonged to all of Earth. Aurora was enormous, larger than entire cities. From a distance it looked like a silver mountain floating among the stars. Its body was layered with shining plates of reinforced alloy. Towers and antennas stretched upward from its surface, glowing with signals that reached across space. Beneath those towers were great engines that burned with bright light when activated, strong enough to push the giant ship out of the solar system. Inside the vessel, thousands of crew members walked through wide halls. They wore uniforms marked not with one nation's symbol but with Earth's symbol. The air carried the sound of machines humming, lights blinking, and people working. Captain Myra, chosen for her calm mind and steady leadership, stood on the command deck. She looked out through the wide glass panels and saw the deep black of space. For her and her crew, this moment was more than history. It was a promise that humanity could rise beyond its old limits. Aurora's mission was simple yet bold. It was to travel beyond the solar system, to cross the silent ocean of space, and to show that Earth had reached the stars. It carried exploration tools, research labs, and supplies to last for years. Weapons were also placed on board, but they were not meant for conquest. They were there in case danger appeared. Every part of the ship was designed to protect, to endure, and to carry the hope of a planet. While the crew prepared for the journey, far away in the galaxy, eyes were watching. The Council of Worlds, made of many alien species, had long observed young civilizations. They expected humanity to take slow steps, perhaps to reach only nearby stars in many centuries. But when their sensors detected Aurora, their thoughts changed. The readings showed a ship far larger than what they believed humans could build. It carried power beyond expectation, and it traveled with a speed that did not belong to a beginner race. In the great chamber of the council, voices filled the air. Alien leaders from many systems looked at the projection of Aurora. They saw its scale, its design, and its energy signature. Some members whispered that it was only an illusion, that no young world could create something so vast. Others argued that humans had advanced faster than predicted, and that such speed was dangerous. The council had faced new species before, but none had grown like this. None had built a Titan-class vessel so soon after entering space. Back on the Aurora, the crew did not know about the council's alarm. They moved through their duties with focus and pride. On the main deck, navigation officers checked star charts. Engineers monitored the engines, ensuring that the massive reactors remained steady. Medical staff prepared for long voyages with new medicines and equipment. Scientists loaded delicate instruments into storage, excited to study new stars and unknown worlds. Every person aboard knew that their journey was more than exploration. It was a step for all humanity, a message carved in metal that Earth was ready to be seen. When the countdown began, silence filled the ship. Captain Myra stood tall at the center of the deck, her hands resting behind her back. The crew turned to their stations, waiting for the final command. Outside, the engines glowed brighter, filling the void with light. The voice of the systems officer spoke with calm control. 10, 9, 8. The numbers fell like steady heartbeats. At the end of the count, the engines roared, and Aurora moved forward. The stars shifted as the ship left the orbit of Saturn, moving into the uncharted darkness. The people on Earth watched from afar. Screens across cities and villages showed the image of Aurora moving beyond the solar system. Families, students, workers, and elders all stopped to see it. For many, it was the first time they felt united. The ship did not belong to one country. It belonged to all. Cheers rose from the planet as the Titan-class vessel became a symbol of human strength and unity. Far beyond, the Council of Worlds grew silent. They looked again at the readings. This was not a simple craft. It was a Titan. They asked themselves what kind of species builds such a vessel before even meeting the stars. Some felt fear. Some felt respect. Some felt both at once. For them, this was not just a ship leaving a solar system. It was the silent arrival of a new force on the galactic stage. Humanity had stepped out of its cradle, and the galaxy had noticed. The Council of Worlds had gathered in their grand chamber. The chamber itself was a circular hall with tall arches and shining crystal walls that reflected light in many colors. At the center was a wide table made of silver stone, where the leaders of many alien species sat. Each had their own seat shaped to their form, and each voice carried the weight of a world. They had gathered before to speak of trade, of peace, and of disputes. But this time, the subject was not between their own members. It was about Earth. Floating above the table was a glowing image of the Titan-class warship Aurora. The image rotated slowly, showing its great size and design. The council members looked at it with disbelief. They had seen human ships before, small and fragile, moving only within a short distance of their home star. They had placed humanity in the category of young worlds, still learning, still unready for the wide galaxy. Yet now, before their eyes, stood proof of something far greater. A voice spoke first. It came from a tall figure with scales shining like polished stone. He said the ship was not natural for such a young race. He warned that humans must have received help from another power. No beginner race could make something so large without outside aid. Another voice, soft and smooth, replied that there was no proof of secret help. She pointed to the records of human progress. In a short time, they had gone from burning fuel rockets to building orbital stations. Their speed was unmatched. She asked the council to consider that humanity had advanced on its own. If so, then Earth was different from any young race before it. The chamber filled with sound as more voices joined. Some argued that humanity was reckless and dangerous, always rushing forward without care for balance. They remembered the signals of human wars that had once reached the stars, images of fire and destruction from centuries past. To them, the Titan ship was only a larger tool of conflict. Others spoke of hope. They said the humans had also shown kindness. Records told of missions where humans sent aid to disaster zones on their own world. There were signals of music, art, and stories that showed a wish for peace. To these council members, the Titan ship might not be a threat. It might be a shield, a sign that humans wanted safety rather than conquest. The leader of the council, a being with a long cloak that shimmered like water, raised a hand to call for silence. The voices faded. In the stillness, the leader spoke. Humanity, they said, had built something unexpected. The Titan-class vessel was a mystery. It could become a danger, or it could become a partner. But the council could not ignore it. They had to decide how to act. One proposal was made to hide from the humans. If the council kept its distance, perhaps the humans would travel on their own without meeting them. Another proposal was to contain Earth, to place hidden ships at the edge of its system and to block its growth. Yet a third proposal was to open contact, to speak before fear and doubt grew stronger. The debate grew intense. Some members shouted that contact was too soon, that humanity was not ready. Others warned that waiting would only let humanity grow stronger without guidance. Every word carried weight, and every decision could shape the future. While the council debated, far away aboard Aurora, the crew continued their mission with calm. They scanned the stars, charted courses, and shared stories in their free hours. Captain Myra walked the decks each day, speaking with her officers, reminding them that their journey was one of peace. None of them knew that far across the galaxy, powerful leaders were already deciding what humanity's place in the stars should be. Back in the council chamber, the discussion stretched long. Hours turned to days. At last, the leader of the council called for order once more. They announced that a decision must be made soon. The humans were moving outward, and delay would not stop them. The council would need to send an envoy, a small ship, to test the humans. This envoy would make the first meeting, to see with their own eyes what kind of people lived on Earth. Some members sighed with relief, glad for a path of contact. Others grumbled with worry, fearing that even this step was dangerous. But the decision was final. The envoy would be chosen, and the first meeting between humanity and the council would soon arrive. As the image of Aurora faded from the chamber, silence returned. The members of the council left the hall, each carrying their own thoughts. Some carried fear. Some carried curiosity. Some carried hope. None of them knew what the future would hold, but they all agreed on one truth. The galaxy had changed. Humanity, with its Titan ship, had entered the stage of the stars, and the council could not look away. The Titan-class vessel Aurora sailed through the quiet sea of space. Its engines glowed with steady light, carrying the ship farther than any human craft had ever gone. For the crew, each day was filled with work and discovery. Scientists studied distant stars, engineers checked the systems, and navigators updated charts. Captain Myra often stood on the command deck, her eyes on the stars ahead. She felt a sense of pride and duty. This was more than a journey. It was the first step into the unknown for all of Earth. One morning, the silence of space was broken by something unusual. A signal appeared on the long-range sensors. At first it was faint, like a whisper carried on the winds of space. The crew thought it might be natural interference, but the pattern was too clear. It repeated in measured intervals, rising and falling like a call. The communication officer turned to Captain Myra and said the signal was artificial. It was not from a star or a planet. It came from a ship. At that moment, the command deck grew still. Every officer felt the weight of the discovery. This was no longer a mission of exploration. It was a meeting. For the first time in history, humans had found proof of another intelligent people. Captain Myra gave her orders with calm authority. The ship adjusted its course to move closer to the source. The signal grew stronger. Soon, the sensors detected the form of a vessel. It was smaller than Aurora but shaped with smooth curves that glowed with blue light. The alien craft moved slowly, as if waiting. On the command deck, the crew stared at the image of the ship. Some whispered in awe. Others felt nervous. The first meeting between humanity and another people was unfolding before their eyes. Captain Myra raised her hand for silence. She reminded the crew that Aurora's mission was one of peace. They would not approach with fear or anger. They would approach with open hands. The alien ship sent another signal, this time clearer and brighter. The communication officer worked quickly, trying to decode the pattern. At first it was only sound, strange tones that rose and fell. Then the machines began to match parts of the signal with simple shapes and numbers. Slowly, the two ships started to understand one another. When the first direct message came through, it was brief. The alien envoy asked who they were. Captain Myra stepped forward. Her voice carried calm strength as she replied. She gave the name of the ship, the name of Earth, and the message that humans came in peace. The words were translated into patterns of light and sound, then sent back to the envoy. There was a pause, as if the alien crew was considering the reply. Then their answer arrived. They said they were representatives of the Council of Worlds. They had come to see the humans and to understand their purpose. The command deck filled with a mix of surprise and relief. The Council of Worlds was real. The galaxy was no longer silent. Still, the meeting was careful. The envoy kept its distance, circling near but not too close. The crew of Aurora sent images of Earth, of oceans, forests, and cities. They showed the Council that humanity was a young world, filled with life and learning. The envoy replied with images of their own worlds. Strange landscapes appeared on the screens, with skies of different colors and cities shaped like flowing rivers of light. For a moment, both sides felt wonder. Two civilizations had reached across the darkness and found one another. Yet behind the beauty was caution. The envoy's leaders were watching Aurora closely. They saw its size, its strength, and its design. To them, it looked less like a ship of peace and more like a vessel of war. The Titan-class name alone gave them reason to worry. Back in the council chamber, the envoy's reports arrived in streams of light. Council members studied them with sharp eyes. They heard that the humans had spoken of peace, but they also heard of the Titan ship's vast power. Doubt grew among them. Could such a young race truly build such a ship for only defense? Or was it the first step in a plan to expand? On Aurora, the crew sensed some of this tension. The envoy's messages became slower, their words careful and measured. Captain Myra understood the fear in their tone. She ordered her officers to continue sending signs of goodwill. They shared stories, art, and music from Earth. The sound of a simple human song was sent across space, a melody that spoke of hope. The envoy did not answer right away. They seemed uncertain. But before the day ended, a short reply came. It was not a song. It was a request for a meeting, face to face. The council wanted to look directly into the eyes of humanity's representatives. Captain Myra felt the weight of the moment. She gathered her officers and told them this was the step history would remember. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and now they would show the galaxy not only their strength but also their heart. The crew of Aurora prepared for the meeting. They did not know if trust would grow or if fear would rise. They only knew that this was the first encounter, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alien envoy ship floated near the Aurora, its smooth surface shining with soft blue light. The distance between the two vessels was carefully measured. Neither side wanted to make a move that might look unfriendly. Captain Myra stood on the command deck with her officers. She knew that the next steps were critical. This was the first real exchange between Earth and the Council of Worlds. Every word and every action could shape how humanity would be seen. The communication screens came alive as the envoy sent another signal. This time it was not just sound or light. It was an image. A tall alien with silver eyes and a long robe appeared. Its voice carried through the translator, sounding calm but firm. It asked why humans had built such a massive ship. It asked what purpose a Titan-class vessel could serve for a world that had only just begun its journey into space. Captain Myra answered with patience. She explained that the Aurora was built as both a guardian and a pathfinder. She said that Earth had once been divided, but nations had come together to build this ship as a symbol of unity. She made it clear that the Titan-class vessel was not made to conquer but to explore, to protect its crew, and to carry peace. The envoy listened but did not seem convinced. To their eyes, the Aurora looked too much like a weapon. Its massive frame, its heavy armor, and the power of its engines all suggested preparation for conflict. The envoy replied that many species in the past had claimed peace while building great ships of war. Some had used those ships to expand and take what was not theirs. The envoy warned that the council remembered those histories and did not wish to see them repeated. On the command deck, the human crew exchanged uneasy glances. They felt the shadow of doubt from the envoy's words. Captain Myra raised her hand and kept her voice steady. She explained again that Earth's people had struggled for peace and that the Aurora was a shield, not a sword. She ordered her officers to share more images with the envoy. Soon, the screens filled with pictures from Earth. The green forests, the wide oceans, the snowy mountains, and the shining cities appeared one after another. The envoy watched with quiet interest. Then the humans sensed something different. They shared a recording of children laughing, of music played in open streets, and of voices speaking in many languages. They wanted to show that Earth was not only about power. It was about life. Still, the envoy seemed troubled. They answered with images of their own history. The council worlds had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had seen fleets of ships crossing the stars with promises of peace that ended in struggle. The envoy explained that the council had learned caution from these stories. To them, the Titan ship was not a simple explorer. It was a warning of how quickly humanity could rise, and that rise filled them with fear. Captain Myro listened carefully. She did not argue with anger. Instead, she spoke with honesty. She said she understood why the council would worry. She admitted that humanity had made mistakes in the past, that war and conflict had once filled their history. But she also said that the very reason Aurora was built was to move beyond that past. Humanity had chosen to build one great ship together rather than many ships apart. To her, that choice was proof of change. The envoy did not reply at once. The silence stretched, heavy and uncertain. The crew of Aurora waited, wondering if trust could be found. Then the envoy finally spoke again. They said they would carry this message back to the council. They would tell the leaders that humanity claimed peace, but they would also tell them of the ship's size and power. When the signal ended, the command deck grew quiet. The crew knew that their words had not been enough to erase doubt. The envoy's eyes had seen the Titan not as a symbol of unity but as a possible weapon. Captain Myra stood tall and told her officers that misunderstandings were natural in first contact. She reminded them that trust would take time. What mattered now was patience and continued goodwill. Far away, in the chamber of the council, the envoy's report arrived. The glowing image of the Aurora appeared again, this time with the envoy's words echoing across the hall. Some members nodded, saying the humans spoke of peace but carried a weapon of war. Others paused at the images of Earth, at the sounds of laughter and music. They saw not just strength but life. The debate began to grow louder, voices rising with fear and with curiosity. The misunderstanding had taken root. To humanity, the Aurora was a shield of peace. To the council, it looked like a sword hidden in plain sight. The choice of how to see it divided them. And in that division, the galaxy prepared for a future shaped by caution, by fear, and perhaps by hope. The chamber of the Council of Worlds was filled with noise. The envoy's report about the Titan ship had shaken every member. The image of Aurora hung above the silver table once again, its size casting a shadow across the hall. Each alien leader spoke quickly, their voices overlapping. The debate was louder and sharper than ever before. Some members rose to their feet in alarm. They said humanity was advancing too fast. In only a few generations, the humans had gone from simple rockets to a Titan-class ship. One speaker, with wings folded tightly behind his back, warned that such speed was dangerous. If humans could build a Titan now, what would they build in 100 years? Another voice, slow and deep, added that the Titan looked like a vessel meant for conflict. Its heavy armor and vast engines were not the design of a gentle explorer. It was a warship in all but name. If the humans claimed peace, why did they choose such a shape? Why did they give it the title of Titan? Others tried to calm the panic. A counselor with bright silver skin spoke of the images shared by the humans. The forests, the oceans, the laughter of children, the sound of music, all these were signs of life and harmony. She reminded the chamber that humanity had shown art and kindness. They had not sent threats. They had sent greetings. Yet her words were quickly drowned by more fearful voices. Some warned that many species in history had spoken of peace before spreading across the stars. They said that the Council could not risk being caught unprepared. If humanity's growth continued unchecked, the balance of the galaxy could be broken. The leader of the Council raised a hand to bring order, but even their presence could not silence the storm. The hall was alive with fear. Whispers of hidden human fleets spread quickly. Rumors suggested that Aurora was not alone, that Earth might already be building more Titans. None of these rumors were proven, yet they grew stronger with each passing hour. Outside the chamber, the panic spread to ordinary citizens of the Council worlds. News of the Titan-class ship reached marketplaces, schools, and gatherings. People spoke with worry about the humans, a race they had never met but already feared. Some imagined the giant ship crossing the stars and standing above their home skies. Others feared that humanity's hunger for progress would outpace wisdom. Back on Aurora, the crew worked without knowing the waves they had caused. They studied stars and charted safe courses, unaware that across the galaxy, their ship was now the subject of endless debate. Captain Myra continued her routine, speaking with her officers and keeping morale strong. She reminded them that their mission was one of peace. She did not yet know that her ship's very size had become the reason for the Council's panic. In the Council chamber, proposals began to form. One group demanded that the Council place watchers near Earth's system, hidden ships that could track humanity's movements. Another group suggested building stronger fleets in preparation for possible conflict. A smaller group argued that such actions would only frighten the humans and create the very danger they wished to avoid. The leader of the Council finally stood and called for silence. Their cloak shimmered like flowing water, and their voice carried across the chamber. They reminded the members that humanity had not attacked. The humans had reached out with greetings and symbols of life. To strike in fear would be unjust. Yet the leader also admitted that the speed of human growth was troubling. They could not ignore the risk. A decision was reached. The Council would not act in open hostility, but they would remain cautious. They would continue to study humanity, to watch their choices, and to prepare for both friendship and danger. The envoy would continue contact, sending back every word and image. Meanwhile, fleets would quietly train, and defenses would be strengthened. Even with this decision, the hall did not rest. The members left their seats with unease. Some whispered that peace could not last. Others held hope that humans might prove different. The truth was not clear. All that was clear was that the Titan-class ship had changed the balance of the galaxy. In distant space, Aurora glided through the darkness, carrying the hopes of Earth. The crew looked to the stars with wonder, believing they were opening doors of friendship. Far away, the Council looked at the same ship with alarm, believing it might open doors of conflict. Between these two views stood the fragile bridge of first contact, a bridge that could either unite or divide. The panic of the Council echoed across worlds, but the humans did not hear it yet. They would soon, and when they did, they would have to show once again what it meant to be from Earth. Aurora continued its journey through the vast darkness of space. Captain Myra walked along the wide corridors, watching the crew prepare for each day's tasks. Scientists monitored stars, engineers checked the engines, and navigators adjusted charts with careful precision. The ship's engines glowed steadily, carrying them toward regions of space humans had never explored. Despite the quiet work, the crew sensed that something larger was beginning. Far from the Council and their chambers of debate, an emergency signal flashed across Aurora's sensors. A small colony ship from a distant species was caught near a collapsing star. Its engines were failing, and the heat from the star threatened to destroy it. The signal was urgent, filled with fear and the need for help. Captain Myra studied the readings. She understood that this was a moment to act. Humanity could show its true intent through action. Without hesitation, she gave orders. The Aurora changed course, moving toward the danger. The crew worked quickly, preparing shields and emergency tools. Engineers reinforced energy fields to protect both ships. Scientists calculated precise trajectories to ensure a safe approach. Every hand on Aurora moved with calm efficiency. There was no hesitation, only purpose. As Aurora approached the colony ship, the crew saw the damage. Small fires burned across its hull. Life support systems flickered. The inhabitants inside were in fear, their voices trembling through the emergency signal. Captain Myra spoke to the colony. She told them not to panic and that Aurora would guide them to safety. The Titan-class vessel moved carefully but with steady strength. Its massive engines created a protective field, pushing debris and radiation away. Energy shields extended from the ship, surrounding the colony like a glowing bubble. The crew of Aurora worked together, using every tool at their disposal. Slowly, the small vessel stabilized. Inside the colony ship, the inhabitants watched in awe. They had never seen a ship so large, so strong, and so precise. They expected a human fleet to be dangerous, but instead, they found protection. The fear in their eyes began to fade. Captain Myra's voice guided them, calm and steady, telling them exactly how to move so the shields could help. As the colony ship's engines started working again, the crew of Aurora stayed close. They guided the vessel through the intense gravity of the collapsing star. Every movement was measured. Every calculation precise. Slowly, they moved the colony to a safe distance, far from danger. Once the colony ship was secure, Captain Myra sent a signal to the Council of Worlds. She described the emergency, the actions taken, and the safety of the colony. The Council received the message with surprise. The humans had the power to harm, but instead, they had used it to protect. They had demonstrated not just skill, but intent. Back on Aurora, the crew shared a quiet moment of relief. Scientists smiled, engineers laughed softly, and navigators looked at the stars with renewed awe. Captain Myra spoke to her officers, praising their teamwork and reminding them that this was what humanity could achieve when they acted together. The envoy from the Council observed everything from a distance. They recorded Aurora's actions, noting every detail. The images and data would reach the Council, showing that the Titan-class ship was more than a weapon. It was a protector, a carrier of hope, and a tool for aid. When the message arrived at the council chamber, the reaction was mixed. Some members gasped at the speed and efficiency of Aurora. Others whispered in wonder at the humans' courage and skill. Even the most fearful members began to see that humanity's Titan-class ship was not only a vessel of power but a vessel of intention. The council realized something important. The humans had made a choice. They had the ability to dominate, but they chose to save. They had the strength to destroy, but they chose to protect. The members began to understand that the humans were different from other species they had encountered. Humanity's growth was rapid, but their values showed promise. Captain Myra and her crew returned to their daily tasks. The colony ship sent messages of thanks, expressing gratitude for the courage and protection. Aurora sailed onward, knowing that the galaxy had seen what humans were truly capable of. Strength alone did not define them. Their intent, their willingness to act for the good of others, spoke even louder. In distant chambers of the council, the discussion shifted. Fear still remained, but it was balanced with respect. Members debated how to approach humanity with trust. They recognized that the Titan-class ship was a symbol, not just of power, but of responsibility. Humanity had proven that even with great ability, they could act with care. The first step of understanding had been made. The Aurora had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, to act with courage, to protect those in need, and to choose peace over fear. The council began to see that this first encounter could grow into something greater, a bridge between worlds built on trust, respect, and the true proof of intent. Aurora glided through the calm expanse of space, its engines glowing softly against the darkness. Captain Myra stood on the command deck, watching distant stars pass by. The ship had completed many tasks, explored new regions, and shown its power. But most importantly, it had shown humanity's true nature. The events with the colony ship had reached the Council of Worlds, and slowly, a new reputation for humans began to form. The council gathered once more in their shining chamber. This time, the mood was different. The image of Aurora appeared above the silver table, but the voices were quieter. Council members spoke with care, weighing the recent actions of the humans. The reports told of courage, precision, and kindness. The humans had acted with strength, but they had chosen to protect, not to destroy. One member spoke first. Their voice was low and thoughtful. They said that humanity had surprised them. In only a short time, humans had reached the stars, built a Titan-class vessel, and yet they used it to help others rather than to dominate. This was a choice the galaxy rarely saw. Another member nodded, adding that while humans were young in years of space travel, their actions showed wisdom beyond what many civilizations displayed. The leader of the council rose, their cloak shimmering with colors that reflected across the chamber. They spoke to all members. They said that the humans had entered the galactic stage not only with strength but with honor. Fear had been replaced by respect. Caution remained, but it was now tempered with hope. Humanity had shown that they could be trusted, at least enough for further contact and observation. Meanwhile, Aurora continued its journey. The crew worked with steady hands and calm hearts. Scientists documented new stars, engineers ensured the ship ran smoothly, and navigators charted unknown regions. Yet the crew knew that the galaxy was now watching them differently. They were no longer only explorers. They were symbols of Earth's potential, a reminder that humans had arrived among the stars. The envoy returned once more, sending messages to Aurora. They asked for more information about Earth, about the people, and about the culture. Captain Myra welcomed the questions. She shared stories of everyday life, of families, schools, and cities. She showed music, art, and celebrations from Earth. Every message emphasized peace, cooperation, and curiosity. The envoy received it with quiet amazement. They realized that humans had power, but they also had heart. In the council chambers, debates turned to planning. Some members still wanted to be careful, keeping watch over human movements. Others wanted to open dialogue, establishing communication and exchanges with Earth. The consensus began to form that humanity's arrival could be a benefit to the galaxy. They were strong, yes, but their strength came with responsibility and care. That combination was rare and valuable. Aurora approached the edge of a new star system, its sensors detecting planets filled with possibilities. Captain Myra called her officers together. She reminded them of the journey so far and the importance of their work. She said that humanity's reputation was growing, not because of fear, but because of their actions. Every choice they made could shape how other civilizations saw Earth. The crew felt pride, but also humility. They understood that their mission was not complete. Many stars lay ahead, many encounters awaited, and many challenges would test their character. Yet they also felt hope. They knew that Aurora had proven something important, that humanity could face the unknown with courage, kindness, and wisdom. As the ship sailed on, the Council sent an official message. They welcomed Earth as a recognized world in the wider galaxy. They offered friendship and invited cooperation in exploration, science, and knowledge. While caution remained, the foundation for trust had been laid. Humanity's first encounter had turned from panic and fear into cautious admiration and respect. On Aurora, Captain Myro looked at her crew and smiled. They had begun a new chapter in human history. The Titan-class vessel, once feared as a weapon, was now known as a protector, a symbol of humanity's arrival and their commitment to peace. The galaxy had seen the best of what humans could be, and the reputation they had earned would carry forward with every mission and every choice they made. As stars stretched into the distance, Aurora sailed onward, not as a threat, but as a beacon. Humanity had stepped into the stars with courage and heart. The galaxy had noticed, and it would never be the same again.